It's not worth it. That t-shirt, I don't even know what it looked like. I don't know where it is. I don't know if I ever wore it. It's not worth it. That frisbee, they sell them at the dollar store. It's only $1. You can get it in any color you want. It's not worth it. That squishy stress ball, it's not worth it. You can find those. There are going to be other things on campus that are giving those things away for free. It's not worth it. It is not worth any of the tchotchkes and crap. It's not worth any of the things that they tell you for you to be getting a credit card at 18. It's not. It's just not worth it.
This year, blessing, money, testimony. Go to follow.
Hi, Journey to Generational Wealth Gang. I am so glad to have you guys back with me today. So with all of the students going back to college, some of them for the very first time, and some of them are returning to school, I just wanted to talk about some financial foolery that takes place during college, and hopefully circumvent some of the financial foolery that I went through when I was in college for some of you and your children. So I am definitely representing my university, and HBCU, Winston-Salem State University, Ram Pride, yes! I love my university. I loved college, everything about it. Like, if I had to do it all over again, I would go to the exact same university because Winston-Salem State is just the absolute and total best, even with the financial foolery that I went through while I was there. So let's get into this. I am going to talk about 3 topics today, and those 3 topics are spending your money wisely, refund checks from student loans, and then your first credit card. And I'm talking about these 3 topics because they're definitely things that are going to present themselves, some of them for everyone, and some of them are just going to be one-offs here and there. So when I went to college, and then when I sent my niece off to college, and then several of my cousins off to college, I remember that we had tons of conversations pre-college. So like the summer coming up too, and then their senior year, we talked about, don't fall in love with the first person that you meet when you're there or that you date. Make sure that your friends know where you're going. If you're going somewhere by yourself, make sure that a friend knows where you're going to. Or if you leave with someone, then you need to come back with them. So like if you and a girlfriend go to a party together, then you guys need to leave together. The buddy system started in kindergarten, and it continues on through college and beyond that, and even, into adulthood. And so there were several things that we talked about, making sure that you stay on top of your studying. Nobody's going to be there to wake you up in the morning and tell you to get to class. Nobody's going to be following up on you with your schoolwork and making sure that you did that presentation or got that 20-page paper written. Like, you're on your own now. You're grown, and it's your responsibility to take care of those things. And so we talked about tons of things, but I cannot remember us talking about finances. And to be absolutely honest, I feel like that is a huge miss for a lot of people. And it was certainly a miss for me going into college. And I believe that it was a miss for my niece. Unfortunately, I didn't catch a clue fast enough to be able to have financial discussions with her when she went into college. And so that's why I said today I want to have those discussions with you guys so that you hopefully won't have some of the issues or run into some things, or that you can have these conversations with your children before they get into these situations, and then it won't be a situation to be concerned about at all. So the first thing is spending your money wisely. So I know that often, students work the summer headed into college so that they have some extra spending money once they get on campus, or parents are gracious enough to provide their kids with some extra spending money. And if you're anything like the students were when I went to college, or even when I talked to my niece who went to college just a few years ago when she went, pretty much that spending money is gone before mid-semester, mid-first semester. It definitely doesn't stay until the end of the year, and oftentimes doesn't even stay to the end of that particular semester. And so one of the things that I would say is be conscious of your spending. Like, make sure that the things that you're purchasing or the things that you're spending money on are absolute must-haves. Consider, doing a budget. So put in your budget like new outfits. If hair and nails or something that you want to do consistently, make sure that you're budgeting for those things. Everybody is wanting to get a new outfit for homecoming, so make sure that you're budgeting for your homecoming outfit, potentially even budgeting for parties, budgeting for dates, stuff like that. Make sure that you are keeping all of those things in mind and looking at the amount of money that you have and making sure that it's going to last the full entire semester, or at least last until you know that it needs to last. Now, maybe, if you're a student, maybe your parents have told you, hey, this money just needs to make it, mid-semester, and then I'll re-up you and give you a little bit more. Hey, you are an extremely lucky student, and thank your parents graciously for extending that favor upon you and just constantly re-upping your account, as needed. But if you're not one of those students who has somebody who is, a financial backer or is consistently giving you money and you need to make your money last, then budgeting is a great way to do it. I can't say if this is still a thing, but when I was in college, there were girls' nights at the club. So there were nights where if girls got there at a certain point in time, then they would get in for free. I don't know if they do the same thing for guys, so sorry guys, you'll have to check in your area. Definitely girls, you'll have to check in your area as well. There were nights where if anybody arrived by a certain point in time, then you would get in for free. And basically they were just trying to build the line up so that they would get momentum. But if you got in line and you were before the cutoff point, then you would be able to get in for free. And so the reason that I mention these things are, these are ways to keep some of your money in your pocket. Like, figure out if there are free nights for parties, or if there are free nights at the club, or get in, and not necessarily a free night, but like by a certain time you get in for free, or if you're a woman then you get in for free, or so on and so forth, and use those things to your advantage. Save as much money as you possibly can on the front end so that you don't have to worry about it on the back end, and you don't have to worry about running out of money, because you can run out really quickly. Okay, don't try and keep up with the Joneses. One of the things that you will experience when you are in college is you are with people from all demographics. You're with people from all economic, that have all different types of economic backgrounds. So everybody's money is going to be different. And what everybody has access to is going to be different. Don't try and keep up with the Joneses. Just because your girlfriends or your guy friends or just your friends in general have this, this, and this does not mean that you have to have all of those things as well. If they can afford it, more power to them, and that's great. But if you can't afford it, don't feel bad because you can't afford it, and don't go into debt because you can't afford it. Or even if it's not going into debt, like, don't go broke spending the money that you do have trying to keep up with them so that you look like them or you have the same things that they have, so on and so forth. Like, just be yourself, be confident in who you are and what you have, and don't worry about constantly trying to keep up with the Joneses. It's not worth it. It's not worth it in the short run, and it's certainly not worth it in the long run. So just don't worry about it. Another thing is, don't pay for everything for everyone. Like, there are certain people who are very generous by nature, or they're the first person to like speak up, and people like catch hold of that you're that person, and they will take advantage of you. Don't constantly be the person that's saying, oh, you know what, I'll pick up, our Uber Eats for tonight, or I'll pick up DoorDash for tonight, or, I'll pay for the Uber or for the Lyft or whatever the ride share is to get to the club or to get back home or whatever. Don't constantly be that person. And keep in mind, like, take mental notes if when you're ordering food with your friends, or when you guys are taking a ride share to get to somewhere, if they're like, hey, so-and-so, can you take care of this? Or, hey, oh, I left my money back in the dorm, or, oh, I'm a little short this time. Like, if they're constantly doing that, then they're taking advantage of you. They've realized that you're the person who's got money and who's going to be the person to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. Or, oh, I got you, just get me back next time, or whatever the case may be. Don't get taken advantage of. Like, it's wonderful to be generous. That is an excellent trait. But it is not a good thing to get taken advantage of. And like I said, this money has got to last you for a period of time. So make sure that you're using it wisely and that you're not having other people take advantage of you and like be that person who's like constantly paying for everything. Great to be generous, not great to be taken advantage of. Okay, next we are going to talk about refund checks from student loans. So when I was in school and it was refund check time, people balled out. And when I say they balled out, I mean you saw people with new hair and new clothes, new purses, new shoes, entirely new wardrobes. Like when I say they balled out, I mean they balled out. As if they had just hit the lottery and had free money. And the thing is, your refund check from your student loans is not free money. That's not the time to ball out. You need to, your refund check from your student loans of course are supposed to cover your tuition, your room and board, and your books. And if you have money in excess of those things and you don't need school supplies or anything else that's related to, your education, then that's when you get a refund check. Those refund checks, if they're substantially exceeding, like when I say substantially exceeding, I mean there were people who were getting $500, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 refund checks, and they were balling out with them. But the thing is that once they graduated, they had to pay that money back. And I think that's often as a student when you don't have access to funds, or you see things that you want or see things that you like, or everybody likes to have access to money, that you don't really think about the financial implications of what those refund checks actually are and what having them and using them actually means until you're out of school and it's too late. So what I would suggest that you do is look at sit down with a financial aid advisor and calculate up what all your academic expenses should be. So tuition, room, board, books. And then figure out if what they're offering you in student loans is going to exceed that for the year. If it's going to exceed that, and definitely if it's going to exceed that drastically, ask if you can get a reduction. Now I know, don't stop the video now. Please don't stop it. I know this crazy lady just told me to not get some money right now that I might need right now because of something that's going to happen later. And this is the reason why I tell you to consider asking that they reduce your student loan amount so that it only covers the things that you need. And this is the reason why. Because after you graduate, they're going to tack on interest. Like normally the average student does not graduate and then the next day pay off 100% of their student loans, like immediately, so that no interest has accrued on them whatsoever. That is not the norm. Like, that's not the norm at all. I can't give you exact percentages, but I'd like to say that the percentage is probably less than 5%. It might even be less than 1% that are actually doing that. I would assume that if that is your situation, that you really wouldn't need student loans in the first place and you'd be able to, kind of pay for it out of pocket. But that's just me speculating. And so the reason I say that is because they're going to tack on interest. And that interest is going to be compounding daily. So wherein you may have used that $500, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, whatever it was, dollars to buy some, Uber Eats or DoorDash, or take a Lyft or an Uber back and forth to the club or to a party, or buy your homecoming outfit, or just get your nails and hair done a couple of times. Like, is that gonna be worth all the extra interest that's gonna compound year over year over year over year over year for you after the fact? Because most people, it takes them longer than 5 years, 10 years, 15 years to pay off their student loans. It takes an extended period of time. And all those years, that interest is compounding. So that's why I say, just consider it. Consider it. Would you rather pick up a job, do student work, figure out some other way to make money so that you have some cash on hand, versus using this refund check that you're getting and using that knowing that you're going to have to pay all this interest later on with it? That's what I'm saying. Just consider. Don't stop the video yet. Don't stop the video yet. Some things I would suggest that you consider and that you do when you sit down with a financial aid officer when you're signing up for those student loans is actually read what you're signing. Like, fully understand and know what you're getting yourself into, because I think often students don't know what they're getting into. when they're signing up for student loans. Like, they know that they need money to go to college. They know that, you know, they don't personally have it. Maybe your parents and grandparents don't have it. So you don't have any scholarships. So your only other option is student loans, which I'm not saying don't get student loans if you need them. What I'm saying is fully understand what you're getting yourself into. Read the fine print. Know, you know, what, so interest, it is potentially going to change from the time that you sign those student loans to maybe when you start paying them, but know what the current interest rate is. Know when your interest is going to start. Know what deferment and forbearance are. Ask what the length of time that you can put your student loans in deferment. Ask what the length of time is that you can put your student loans in forbearance. I think that oftentimes, and especially having talked to my friends and family members and so on and so forth that have student loans, myself included, like, you needed the money, so you signed whatever they gave you to sign, and then you figured it all out on the back end. And knowledge is power, so knowing things on the front end and knowing fully what you're getting into will help you out a lot further than just figuring it out on the back end. So that's why I'm saying these things. You run into the situations that I did, and being like, oh, okay, so my student loans are due now, like I have to start paying them now, and then knowing nothing about it, knowing nothing about the amount of interest, or, you know, what forbearance means and what deferment means and how long you can do either or both of them, and so on and so forth. So that's why I'm just saying, ask questions of your student loan officer so that you know in advance. And then at the end of when you're finishing school, go back and find out updates for those things. Like that, it's not, just because you're ending school doesn't mean that that student loan officer doesn't still owe you some time to explain to you fully so that you know exactly what's going on and what you'll need to do and what'll be taking place moving forward. So don't be afraid to schedule time with your student loan officer and ask literally any and every single question that you could possibly ever have, because that's their job. And you need to know what you're getting yourself into financially when you sign those student loan documents. Okay, and so now your first credit card. This is probably the biggest one for me. I did a little bit of research and found out that 54% of Americans got their first credit card between the ages of 18 and 20. So for me, that was just very interesting. I unfortunately, and I do mean unfortunately, got my first credit card at the age of 18 as well, and that was a whole bunch of financial foolery, and I will tell you about the foolery that it was. So I will say, definitely if you're a parent, talk to your kids about this, talk to your college student about this, before they run into this as a possibility. And then if you're a college student that's watching this, please, like, I am begging you to please take heed and listen to this part. So at my beloved alma mater, I remember that they had, one day I was walking out on campus. So I'm sorry, let me rewind. So this is where the financial foolery starts. So I was dating a guy, and I was about to go away for an internship for the summer. And I would be gone for the entire summer. And I wanted him to have some entertainment, so that he, wouldn't look for entertainment while I was gone. And so I thought to myself, you know what, I'm going to buy him a PlayStation. Because back then, that was, I guess, what people were doing. Like, playing with video games and stuff, which they still do now. So anyhow, I was like, I'm going to buy him a PlayStation. That way he'll have something that's going to entertain him for the summer. And then I can, do my internship and not have to worry about him being entertained by anyone else. So there are so many things in that statement that I just said that should have been red flags to be like, okay, none of that is necessary. But I was 18. So I'm going to blame it on the fact that I was 18. And so anyhow, I was like, okay, I'm going to buy him this PlayStation, but I didn't have any money, right? So I didn't know how I was going to buy the PlayStation. Now, a financial foolery I had already done. So earlier that same year, Valentine's Day had taken place, and I was with this same guy, and I wanted to get him something for Valentine's Day. didn't have any money, knew I couldn't call my parents and be like, hey, I want to buy this guy a gift. So can I get some money to be able to do this? They weren't going to go for that. Like, at all, they weren't going to go for that. And rightfully so, they shouldn't. So anyway, I was like, I'm going to have to figure it out on my own. So I sold my George Foreman so that I could go and purchase him a gift. Yep, I was selling stuff to buy stuff for a man. I told you, financial foolery. It started young for me. I'm not proud of it. And that's the reason why I'm telling you, because I don't want you or your children to go through the nonsense and foolery that I went through. So anyhow, this is financial foolery number 2. I was like, I'm going to buy this PlayStation, but I don't have any money. I'm not working right now. I don't have any money to buy it. So anyhow, I'm walking on campus at my beloved Winston-Salem State University, and all of a sudden, like, I hear music playing, and then I walk by this table where there are, like, some people, and I think there may have been, like, some balloon towers or something like that, and they had, like, a table full of tchotchkes, and tchotchkes are basically, like, crap, really crap that people don't want. So they had, like, t-shirts that were probably colorful, and they had, like, stress squishy balls. They had some Frisbees. I think they had, like, some, like, koozie, like, you know, the thing that you put, like, around a beer can to keep it cold or whatever. So they had some koozie things, and they probably had some other stuff as well, right? So anyhow, I'm like, oh, okay, I wonder what this is. And some really excited, happy person came over, talking to me, telling me how I could get my very first credit card and how it didn't matter what my credit score was. They could definitely get me into a card. It would depend on how much, what my credit score was, on how much they could get me on the card, but it was going to be like a minimum of $500, and it would be really simple and easy if I just took a couple of minutes to fill out this application, and then everything would be sent to me in the mail, right? Everything is super easy. It's super fast. You can do this. It's not going to be a problem. It's going to get you on the path to building your credit. Like, all kinds of stuff to sell you on getting this. Oh, and you can pick out anything on this table. You can get a t-shirt or a koozie or a Frisbee. Like, any of this stuff. If you want more than one thing, then go ahead and get it. But you got to fill out this quick application, right? So I fell for it. I fell for it. Let me start by saying this. It's not worth it. That t-shirt, I don't even know what it looked like. I don't know where it is. I don't know if I ever wore it. It's not worth it. That Frisbee, they sell them at the dollar store. It's only $1. You can get it in any color you want. It's not worth it. That squishy stress ball, it's not worth it. You can find those. There are going to be other things on campus that are giving those things away for free. It's not worth it. It is not worth any of the tchotchkes and crap. It's not worth any of the things that they tell you for you to be getting a credit card at 18. It's not. It's just not worth it. Is getting a credit card part of the path to building credit? It absolutely is. However, I would say this. You do not need to get a credit card until you know how to manage a credit card. Until you fully have a full, complete understanding of how credit works and how credit management works, then you don't need a credit card. And you definitely don't need a credit card to purchase stupid things, like things for your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your significant other. Like, when you're 18, like, you just don't. That's just wisdom. You just don't need it. And I understand that at that time I thought that was something that was very important. It was important to me. He didn't know anything about it, so it wasn't that he was encouraging me to do this, because he absolutely wasn't. No one else was encouraging me to do it. I was in this foolery all completely and totally by myself. I'm saying all of this because I don't want you to experience that. I don't want you to go through those things. I don't want you to make those unwise financial decisions, because that was an unwise financial decision that I made. So now this, I will tell you this. The credit card that I got had what I consider to be, well, in today's terms, it probably wasn't a high interest rate, but it was a high interest rate. It was like 19 point something was the interest rate on it. I think that it did start out with like somewhere between $500 and $1,000. Maybe it was like $1,000 of credit on it. I had never had a credit card before. I didn't really know how credit cards worked. I'm just being honest. I didn't really know how credit cards worked. I was 18. I had dealt with, cash from working a job, and then I went and cashed my check, or I had my debit card and I knew that had whatever money I had in the bank on it. And those were the things that I knew. I didn't know anything about a credit card. So as far as I was concerned, a credit card was going to give me access to money in the moment, and then I was going to figure out whatever the rest of it was on the back end. That was my thought process, and it was a horrible thought process. So let me give you some do's and don'ts about credit cards. So like I said, for starters, don't get a credit card for a stupid reason like I did, because that was a stupid reason. So like, don't get a credit card just to have one for a stupid reason. Don't get a credit card if you can't pay it off every single month, the full entire balance. Then you don't need a credit card. If you can't pay it off completely, then you're not ready to have one, because you're trying to build credit so that you can, be able to be approved for other things. And if you use credit the wrong way, then you're circumventing the whole purpose of getting the credit card to build good credit in the first place. Excuse me. Get a credit card if you can't. Don't share your credit card information with anyone whatsoever. And why I say don't share it with anyone whatsoever is because just because you think that you can trust someone doesn't necessarily mean that you can trust them. Unfortunately, when money comes into the mix, you often find out that your ability to trust someone is going to be much less than if money was not in the mix. Don't use your credit card to help a friend. I'm all for helping friends. I'm all for helping family, but that is your debt. That credit card is in your name. So regardless of how much that friend or that family member is like, oh, I'll pay it back if you just take care of it for me right now. Like, to be absolutely honest, they could say that, and as soon as it comes out of their mouth, it's gone. Like, they're done with it. You've given them access, or you've paid for whatever it is, and then they're done with it. Like, there's no repercussion for them. So that's why I say, like, don't use your credit card to help a friend or a family member or really anyone else out. If you're not using those funds for yourself, just let it be. Don't even, especially, that's probably a great thing to say. Don't even tell your friends you have a credit card. Like, don't even let them know that you have one. That way you don't have to worry about it. And oddly enough, yes, people will be like, hey, can you, just get this for me real quick or whatever. Like, you would not imagine how even your closest friend will be like, hey, can't you just take care of this for me right quick? Like, I know you have that credit card, and I know you don't use it that much, so you probably have some money on it. Like, don't put yourself in a situation like that. Just don't even tell them that you have it. Okay, so do use your credit. If you get a credit card, do use it for toiletries and like the normal stuff that you would normally use your cash money for that you have in your account, and then pay it off with the cash money that you have in your account. So whatever you're putting on that credit card, make sure that you already have the money for it in cash in your bank account. So, do use it for DoorDash or for Uber Eats or to catch a Uber or a Lyft, somewhere. Because those things would normally come straight out of your bank account. So go ahead and use that money that you would normally use that's in your bank account to go ahead and pay that credit card off. Like, those are ways for you to use that credit card effectively to help you build positive credit. What you're doing is buying things that you would normally purchase and then using the money that you already have to pay those things off, versus buying things that you don't have money for and then having to pay interest on top of interest on top of interest on top of interest because you didn't have money for these things in the first place. If you can't afford to pay for it in cash, then you don't need to put it on your credit card. Okay, so if you are absolutely insistent that I have got to have a credit card, or my parents tell me, parents, if you're like, no, I really think that my child does need a credit card, then here's some things to consider. Consider doing a secured credit card. What a secured credit card is, it's a special type of credit card that requires that you make a deposit on the card, and then whatever you deposit onto the card is what you have access to from a credit perspective. So let's use an example. If you had a secured credit card and you put $500 on that credit card, then you would have access to $500. So that way it helps you to build credit and to be responsible without overspending and then ending up having to pay back debt and so on and so forth, because you've already upfronted and deposited that $500, so you still have access. So you have access to that full $500. That is a great way to help you build your credit and not have to worry about even accidentally overspending. So if you worked the previous summer and you have all of the money that you just were saving up or whatever the case may be, consider a secure credit card and then putting whatever that amount or a portion of that amount that you saved up, putting that on the card. So if it be $500, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, whatever you deem necessary, then consider that and having the secured credit card. The next thing that I would say is consider limiting the number of credit cards you have. So like I said, especially between the ages of 18 and 21, why do you need multiple credit cards? Like, you honestly don't. I would consider keeping it really 1 to 2 is what the suggestion is, but really I would say you just need the one, especially if you are learning how to manage credit and this is all a new process for you. Like, it is gonna be a lot more difficult for you to manage 2 credit cards than it is to manage 1 credit card if you don't fully understand or have the concept down for managing that 1 credit card first. And then the next thing that I would say is keep your credit card limit low. And when I say keep your credit card limit low is if you decide not to do a secured credit card and you decide to just get a credit card and they offer you a $2,000 credit card, ask them if they can reduce it to $1,000 or ask them if they can reduce it to $500. Keep the amount low. And the reason I say keep the amount low is because the lower the amount is, the less likely that you're going to overspend and the less likely that you're going to owe more money. So the higher that it is, the more money that you're going to owe if you potentially max it out or, use more of those funds. So just something to consider. I would also say keep your utilization at 30% or below. So just because you have access to that full $500, that full $1,000 or whatever it is, doesn't mean that you have to use that full amount. Your credit card utilization, this is now at 18, at 20, at 35, at 45, at 60, at 70, and beyond, should stay at 30% and below to be considered good credit card utilization. Like, that's going to help you to increase your credit score if it's at that 30% and below. The next thing I would say is stay away from in-store credit cards. And what I mean by in-store credit cards is Bed Bath & Beyond. Like, I don't know if they have a credit card, but they might. So Bed Bath & Beyond or Express, even if Express still exists, like, that might tell you exactly how old I am now. Or any of the stores that are out there that have an in-store credit card, stay away from those. And the reason that I say stay away from those is because, like, they'll often, try and give you, like, they'll explain to you that it's a really good deal if you get this credit card now. So we'll take, 10, 15, 20% off of your entire purchase right now if you sign up for this credit card. And then on special days of the month, like, we'll send you out another 5, 10, or 15% off or whatever the case may be. But also, those same credit cards have limitations. You can only use it in that one store. And then they often have a higher interest rate than any outside of that store credit card. And so that's why I say it's not worth it, because having those in-store credit cards is also going to just encourage you to spend more money in that particular store, even if you would need something else somewhere else or found a better deal at another location. Oh, but I have this credit card, so let me go ahead and get it here, so on and so forth. So highly consider staying away from those in-store credit cards. Okay, so the next thing is pay your bill on time or pay it before the due. So pay it on the due date or before the due date. Paying it on the due date or before the due date is going to make sure that you don't incur any late fees, and it also will potentially ensure that if you're paying it in full, that you don't incur any interest on the purchases that you've made. Really, the only way having a credit card is actually beneficial is if you don't end up paying more for the item after you've purchased it than you would have had you purchased it in cash. Meaning, if you end up having to pay more for the item, which means that you're paying interest on top of what the original cost of the item was, then you really didn't benefit from getting that item or using that credit card in the first place. So yeah, just consider that. That's not really a benefit. If you have to pay more for the item than it was originally worth or valued at, like, how did you benefit from that? That doesn't make sense. Okay, so circling back to something that I said at the beginning of the video, which is create a budget. Make sure before you use your credit card that you already have the money available and that it's in your budget to purchase this item so that you can pay it off in full when the bill comes due. So just there's so many good reasons for you to be creating a budget, even though you're in college. Like there's so many good reasons. So next I would say make sure that you are monitoring your credit. So every single year from all three of the credit bureaus, you are able to get a copy of your credit report. That will allow you to be able to see, not only see your credit score, but also see anything that's listed on your credit report. And keeping track of what's on your credit report will allow you to be able to make sure that you keep track or update any or be aware of any issues that might be on there. So any incorrect information so that you can get it corrected and you can get it removed as quickly as possible. It'll also make sure that you're aware that no one else is using your identity that you're not aware of. I would probably recommend if you know that you have your credit card, or even if you've opted not to have one, if you're not doing things with your credit, that you put a freeze on your social security number. So you do a credit freeze, and then that way you don't have to worry about the potential of someone stealing your identity or getting a credit card in your name or getting any type of credit or loan in your name, because you've got put a freeze on it, and then you would be contacted if that freeze would need to be removed so that you could do something. Or honestly, you would personally know if you're sitting somewhere trying to use your credit that you need to go ahead and remove this before you start the process or before they run your information, so on and so forth. So highly consider putting a freeze on your credit so that you don't have to worry about the potential of someone else using it. And then the next thing I would say is avoid, in big flashing letters, avoid the cash advances. It is super easy. I know that one credit card that I've had in the past, like periodically they would send like 3 or 4 checks at a time that I could fill out and do an immediate cash advance. So they are making it super easy for you now. Like you don't even have to, do anything. They're sending you checks in the mail so that you could do a cash advance. Avoid the cash advances on those credit cards. And this is the reason why I say avoid the cash advances, because normally they're anywhere between 3 and 6% higher than your normal interest rate for you to do that cash advance. So that's why I say it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. Okay, say no to the minimum payment. So on your credit card bill, when it comes in the mail, it will have, or when it comes online, however you take it, it will have a minimum amount due. that'll tell you, so you only have to pay a quarter, or sometimes it's really like an eighth of what you owe. So it's a small fraction of what you actually owe to your credit card company. It is in their best interest that you pay as little of that each month as possible, because they're going to charge you interest, which means that they're going to make more money. They make money by charging interest. So if you every single month pay your bill on time, in full, which is what I'm highly suggesting that you do, then they're not going to make any money off of you. But you are going to be able to build good credit, and it is going to show that you are responsible, that you're a responsible person as it pertains to your credit. However, if you pay that minimum amount due that they're suggesting, then they're going to tack on interest on top of your on top of what you owe them. And that interest is going to compound daily. And so it's going to grow. And every month, if you're still just paying that minimum amount, it's going to continue to grow. And it's going to continue to grow. And it's going to continue to grow. And, you could potentially be similar to the situation that I ended up in after college, was owing years down the line for stuff that you don't even remember what you purchased. Like, you don't even know where it is. You don't remember what it was. Like, I do remember having purchased that PlayStation, and I wasn't working at the time, but like I said, I had a summer internship, so I was going to be making money. But that summer, I also had rent to pay, and I also had to pay for my utilities and my other expenses and toiletries, and I was going to want to do some things while I was out on my internship. So my money was already allocated to something, but I still had this credit card bill that I was also going to have to pay. So that's why I'm saying, like, have the money in cash in hand and then make the purchase. Don't just use the credit card as, oh, I'm going to go ahead and use this and then I'll just pay it kind of whenever I have it. Don't do that. It's not wise. And it's not in your best interest. Understand what you're getting yourself into. So like I said, when I signed up for my credit card, there was a lot of fanfare, there was a lot of excitement, there was a lot of loud music, and a happy, excited salesperson in front of me. But there wasn't a lot of, this is exactly what you're getting into. These are our fees. This is the interest rate that you're going to have to pay. These are the penalties. If there's like an annual fee that's due, those are not things that were discussed. Those are not things that were highlighted and like pushed in my face the way that everything else was, like those t-shirts and the koozie and the frisbee and so on and so forth. So I say, yes, you may think, oh my God, it's so boring to read the fine print, or I have other things that I need to do and so on and so forth. And if that's the way you feel, that's fine. You don't need to get a credit card because not reading the fine print and not knowing what you're getting yourself into has the potential to be a bad thing for you later on when you're actually trying to figure it all out. If you are uncertain about how to manage credit, then seek financial advice. Like, don't be afraid to ask someone. If your parents do well managing their credit, ask your parents. If it's not your parents, ask another family member. If no one that you know has managed credit well, that's fine. That doesn't mean that you have to remain in the dark. Seek a financial advisor. Like, there are people, there are resources for you to find out all the information that you need so that you can make the best financial decisions possible. If you're a parent and you know that you have not managed credit well for yourself, so you don't really know how to guide or direct your child, that's fine. Don't feel bad about that whatsoever. This is actually an opportunity for you all to learn together, and then go seek the advice of a financial advisor and have them teach both of you together so that you all can both be in a better situation financially. Like, never feel some kind of way about seeking financial advice, because that's only going to make you better. It's not going to do anything to make the situation worse for you. And then finally, I would like to say, create an emergency fund. Even, yes, now that you're in college, your child is in college, like start working towards that emergency fund. If you worked over the summer and you saved up a certain amount of money, put a percentage of that money off to the side and have that be like you're in case of an emergency. This is the money that I have set to the side. And the reason that I say that is because far too often people think that the purpose of a credit card is in the case that they have an emergency. And the reality is, if you have an emergency and you need to use that credit card, then yes, you're going to go ahead and use it. But if it was an emergency and you already didn't have the money, that money isn't going to automatically appear now that the emergency is over. So now you're once again paying interest on an emergency that had you created an emergency fund and had those funds off to the side in cash or in a savings, a high yield interest savings, then you wouldn't have to worry about using a credit card for emergencies. That's not financially wise to have your credit card be the thing that you use in the case of emergencies. If it absolutely has to be, don't feel bad about it. Like, emergencies happen, things are gonna occur, do what you have to do. But by and large, have that emergency fund. Like I said, put some money off to the side so that if something occurs, you have a stash of cash available, or like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be cash, so it can be in your savings account, in your checking account. But you have access to funds that are not credit to assist you to get through that emergency. Okay, so we have talked about spending your funds wisely. We have talked about how to manage your refund check from your student loans, and we have talked about your first credit card. Again, my goal for Journey to Generational Wealth is to help people not make the same bad decisions that I made financially, so that you can build financial security on your way to generational wealth. So I hope that this information has been beneficial for you. If you're a parent, I hope that it has been beneficial for you. If you are a student, I know that it seems, finances, oh my God, they're so heavy. Like, that is a super heavy topic, and I fully understand that. But part of going to college is growing up and becoming an adult and making wise decisions. And I want you to make wise financial decisions while you're in college, so that once you graduate and you're out of college, like, you are a step above all of your friends. You're a step above, anyone else, really, Americans, period, because you've already been making financially wise decisions, and those financially wise decisions have just propelled you even that much further. I hope you guys have a great semester and a great year, and that you make excellent grades, that you have wonderful experiences and excellent memories. Like my beloved Winston-Salem State, like, I love my university. I will always be around. Shout out to all my Ramley. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you will be notified when the next time that I post. All right, have a good day. Thank you, Journey to Generational Wealth Gang. Bye-bye.
Oh, this year, good news, giant, plenty balling. Go they follow, you they go.